me! I got you! I'm not ready!
Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and yeah, we're going to go through my Shield Wall League Starter run on the Smith of Kitava. Now, obviously, the Smith has a number of changes coming through to it, and I did play this last league, or in the .3 league, which arguably was a lot weaker than what it's going to actually be. Now, Shield Wall and Resonating Shield got absolutely no buffs or nerfs to them from what I can see. If anything, defenses for the Smith got enhanced pretty significantly. We did lose a couple of things, like Wind Dancer got a pretty significant nerf to it, but also that's not the thing that makes this build tick at all. As an overall, as a net like positive for this sort of configuration, Shield Wall is just like really strong. And in doing a full leveling run, and by the way, there's a full mobalytics and everything, we'll talk about it in a moment. Yeah, this was like a really clean build to level up. It took about 8 to 10 hours on just like an SSF run scenario, like realistic run. I didn't run into any real issues with the Cobra boss. I think I died once, and that was due to me being bad. And outside of that, it was just a clean campaign run. Didn't have any issues in the interludes either. In particular with the sword boss at the end of the interludes for the desert interlude, let's just call it. But as an overall, this build was like pretty consistent to level up and pretty strong. I think I've got a pretty good tree and sequence set up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get into the build, talk about it, and all the other good stuff. And Mobalytics link will be down below. I haven't done a path of building for this one because Mobalytics has got all the info that you need in it anyway. And I've split this up into all the acts and campaigns, all the campaign acts as they are. And I've split all the interludes up so you can follow along as the build progresses. Anyway, let's get into the guide. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about Smith of Kitava. Now, the big change here are the notables connected to the Smith's Masterwork notable, which gives you access to all the armor nodes. Now grants plus 200 armor in addition to other bonuses that you select, which means in my setup in this league starter, you will get by default, like by the end game, an extra 1200 armor in base, and then you can scale that up. We get to like somewhere like 15,000 armor, and for those who don't know, you can exceed the armor applies to elemental damage over the top of your armor, which is one of the reasons why this is so incredibly strong. Now, obviously, things that we need to consider will be the tribute to Utala, which is 30% increased spirit, really speaks to me because if we have 100 spirit, that means we get an extra 30 spirit, right? Internal layer is 100% crit damage reduction, so that means we take no crit. Obviously, we've got things like heat proofing. It now means you're unaffected by all damaging ailments, which means that would be poisons, everything. Anything that would be considered a damaging ailment will no longer affect you, which is really, really strong. Now, Fire Spell on melee hit, I'll talk about this in another video because I'm sort of theory crafting something around this, and I think Resonating Strike could work with that. But for the sake of this video, we don't care about that. Moral of the story, Smith I would consider like S tier as far as its consistency and defense layers. And this is where the beauty of the Smith of Kitava comes in. Is it means you can invest a lot into offense, into your gear, and you don't have to worry about trying to scrap together the resistances outside of Chaos Res. And even there's a node that allows you to apply 100% of armor to Chaos damage as well, again making it really strong. With Shield Wall itself, not really any real downsides to running this. And yeah, and also just another thing that this build does use the poison bleed interaction, and that does can as far as I can see, I can't see them eliminating that from working. Technically, this setup, if you wanted to run it on like Druid on Shaman, would probably work. Don't know what the ascendancy points really like how the interactions work or the tree looks like, but there is every possibility that you could run shield skills really easily. This is just one iteration. If you want to look for Titan setups, then Lext is the person to look at from a shield build standpoint on that front as well. But anyway, this is sort of what we're looking at. The other thing we should also note is Arn Citadel got buffed as well. Basically, there's no downside to running Arn Citadel, and there was a really strong shield wall build that was using that on the Warbringer from last league as well. So there's also that. But anyway, that's basically where we're at and the reason why Smith. And like the reason why Smith, we could probably get way more damage with other ascendancies because I really like the defense of Smith. And we're probably going to need to consider that as well. Okay, so how does this build work? Well, in my write-up in Mobalytics, basically we're rolling out with the Shield Wall plus Fortifying Cry. And we'll talk about the gem setups very soon. But basically, the idea is drop your shield wall down. You want to put 2 shield walls down, and you want to try and like overlap them in like an X or cross formation. Then you're going to hit Fortifying Cry to do huge damage. Like you'll just blow up the whole shield wall, and that'll do a huge amount of damage. Now, what I'd also recommend is using Resonating Strike to then break armor on the enemy. Obviously, before you then use shield wall, this is going to do a lot more damage. This iteration of the build is more fizz damage as well. So that's basically, you know, pretty much the entire damage loop in sequence, and then face tank everything else because you have heaps of block and everything else. We sort of have leveling and everything as we go down further in here, and you'll see this in the Mobalytics. A couple of things to bear in mind. Main hand weapon, you want to focus on global modifiers like attack speed and gem level. At the end of the day, that's going to increase the level of damage of absolutely everything in the build. And it's really the only thing that works with the main hand. There's really nothing else. The other modifier you want to consider is Onslaught from the Abyss content. That was one of the new modifiers that came in, and that was really, really useful. The other thing you also want to keep an eye on is your stun bar. So your stun bar is situated in your bottom left-hand corner. If you overcap that, you're going to have a bad time. That improves over time, but early on it is something that you will have to consider managing. Now, a couple of things I've got noted. It's a pretty tanky build, good DPS. We focus on a lot of regeneration. And also this build is probably easier on the hands. It's a lot less like, you know, finger clicking than other builds. It's pretty good for new players because it also lets you fail and learn as you go. Now, one thing I'd probably say, it's slower than, you know, bow builds like Lightning Arrow. It's just not going to be as fast. Can be a little clunky as well on bosses just to figure out the sequencing of how to drop the shields, how to drop the shield wall down, then Warcry on top. And again, you have to manage that stun bar, and this can be a little bit frustrating from time to time. That's pretty much all you need to know about the basic functionality of this build. So we'll talk about the leveling a little bit and how to sequence the gearing. Okay, so the next question you're probably going to have is how do you level this build? So in my Mobalytics, you'll see I've got Act 1 through to 2 through to 3 for Interlude 1, 2, 3, and early mapping. Pretty much early on, you're just going to be going for like a really easy slim mace. You just want to gear up as much as you can. The focus in early leveling is going to be on cold resistance because this is because you have to fight the first Act boss, which, you know, he does cold damage. Now, Act 2, we're going to try and get to Shield Wall as soon as we can because taking down Germana without Shield Wall is a pain. But really, we're just going to be scaling up and just getting as much sort of lightning res as we can to fight Germana, obviously. And then we're just going to be trying to push up our shield armor at the end of the day. That's pretty much our big focus. Act 3, we're just progressing the build. Act 3, it sort of drops off a slight bit and you have to pick that back up as you go, but progressing that further, should have no problems. The big focus is you're always switching out your shield. Act 4, this is when we start to get better gear again. We want a shield with about 300 to 400 armor, and this is going to help us really get through the next few areas of the game. When we get into the interludes, we just continue to progress again. Again, you're like, you know, by the time you get your first or second ascendancy, you're going to be switching to just a standard normal chest piece because that's going to synergize with your ascendancy. But yeah, that's pretty much all you're going to be focusing on. Interlude 2, you want to start to look at getting a Rondale of Fragility. Smithy Kitava has a unique ability to use this because the negative 30% elemental resistances essentially has no effect on your build whatsoever because of the amount of fire resistance stacking that the Smithy Kitava actually gets. So this means you get free skill speed up to 30%, free flat damage, and also crit chance, which just across the board enhances your build, and that takes you all the way through into early mapping. Now, when we look at like skill progression, we've got that down here. You're going to be starting with Mace Strike initially, and I just use Rapid Attacks and Bleed. And then Bone Shatter we're going to be using with Impact, Shockwaves, and Bleed 1 all the way through. I do go into Herald of Blood straight away. You don't have to do this, but I do. And I run just Poison 1 initially. Rolling Slam you do not need, so you can just get rid of this. Resonating Shield is another thing that I get early on, as well as Infernal Cry. Now, then we move into Act 2. We start to level up Resonating Shield. We're using this a lot more, so we want Rapid Attacks, Bleed 1, and Fire Attunement early on. We're also going to get Shield Wall by level 22. So this means that we're going to then take Magnified Area of Effect, or Magnified Area 1, and Fire Attunement, and we need to have at least Infernal Cry, and I just run Raging Cry with Magnified Area to get that early explosion. So pretty much you'll also run Bone Shatter with, again, Impact, Shockwaves, and Bleed 1, and then you're just going to use Resonating Strike, and then you're going to then light up the enemies and Bone Shatter, and that's going to be your big clear. And in the meantime, we have Poison 1 and Bursting Plague on Herald of Blood, which just does a bit more clear on maps. At this point, you could have Magma Barrier, but it's entirely up to you. I went the Herald of Blood route because it just works really well. By Act 3, skill-wise, you're going to be then gearing up. Shield Wall, again, we've only got a 2-link on there. I do have a 4-link on Resonating Shield. We really don't progress it very far. We do switch out Bleed 2, and that's basically it. Yeah, we haven't really added too much more. You will get the ability to have another 30 spirit as well when you take down the Bog Witch. So we're going to get Magma Barrier then with Close Combat and Magnified Area. And this is going to increase the ability for you to be able to, I guess, be offensive against enemies. Act 4, we start to get a little bit more progressed. We get to 4-link on Shield Wall, Magnified Area of Effect, Brutality 2, and Heavy Swings. We then get Herald of Blood up to a 5-link, and this was just throughout the campaign progression. Poison 1, Bursting Plague, Bleed 1, and Armor Breaker, all really useful to have on this setup. Magma Barrier with Close Combat and Area 1. Bone Shatter, we just keep in the background. We don't really need to worry about it too much now. Resonating Shield, we're just running Rapid Attacks 2, Bleed 2, and Fire Attunement. And we switch into Fortifying Cry with Magnified Area and Heavy Swings. Then we get into the interludes. No real change in interludes. We do get more in interlude 2. This is basically because we go after the next 40 spirit. So then we're going to add a Wind Dancer into the build with Bleed 3, Poison 3, and Bursting Plague. And we start switching out a lot of our bleed nodes and things like that to Bleed 3 and Poison 3 and all that sort of good stuff. And that's basically where we get to by the end of interlude 2. Then by the time we get to early mapping, that's basically all exactly the same. Okay, so for the skill tree, pretty much early on, we're going to progress from the melee damage nodes, then progress basically into Brutal, Smash, come down, and we're going to chase Blade Catcher going through Beef. Then in Act 2, we want to come up and get Defender's Resolve. We also want to grab the Blood Rush nodes as well. We want Crushing Verdict, and we want Lasting Trauma, and up into the Attribute Point node at the very end. Our Ascendancy we want to take will be Smith's Masterwork and Leather Bindings with Tantalum Alloy, and that's pretty much going to get us going for Act 2 and our first Ascendancy. Okay, so once we progress Act 3, and also noting we'll get Coalstoker as our second Ascendancy point, we're going to come up and grab Made to Last. We're then going to progress into Greatest Defense. We'll then come up and grab In Your Face. Then in Act 4, we're going to progress into Blood Magic finally, and into Feral Force. And then we'll come down and we'll start progressing towards Tempered Defense. Finally, by the time we get into the interludes, we're going to be a much more progressed sort of setup. So we're actually going to come down and go all the way and start investing into these lower nodes down here. So we'll grab Iron Reflexes. Leatherbound Gauntlets gives us an absolutely huge amount of defense. And then we want to also start progressing towards Gem Enthusiast and Sand in the Eyes. And that's pretty much going to get us through the leveling sequence there. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the build. So obviously everything is all contained within the Mobalytics link down below. So if you want to check out all the details of level progression, all that, then check that out. But yeah, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. And hopefully, if you have time to league test this, it works for you. And yeah, fingers crossed we get a really good league start. Am I going to play this build on league start? Very likely, yes. But also, I may last minute change my mind and do Druid. I do have another video planned for tomorrow night and also another curation for the night after. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later on and have a good one.